Welcome back to our symposium today. As mentioned in our program book, we will start our session today with a forum entitled Innovation and Technology for Sustainable Bioeconomy. So without further ado, I'm passing the session to the moderator today. And the moderator today, we would like to invite Associate Prof. Dr. Mohammad Faizal Ibrahim from Universiti Putra, Malaysia, as the moderator for our forum today. Yeah.
Testing. All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Very good morning to all of you today. First of all, thank you very much to the organizer, what we call iSynBioCT 2024, for calling me to be the moderator for today's program. The title, which is quite very important and attractive, Innovation and Technology for Sustainable Bioeconomy. And we are looking forward to the insights, what we would be do with this particular title later on to discuss further. So I'm moderator today. My name is Faizal, and together with me, I will introduce and call the panels, which are very important panels, very prominent in the industry, and we might be very opportunate to listen and get the sharing from our panels today. I would like to call the first one, our first speaker. Please welcome Mr. Mohammad Ghaddaffi Mohammad No. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mohammad Ghaddaffi, or Mr. Ghaddaffi, he is the R&D head Renewable Oil Cluster from Petronas Research, Sdn Bhd. He is very expert. I think after I go through the biography for the Mr. Ghaddaffi, he done several projects related to the bioenergy, biofuel, currently focusing on the microalgae. Perhaps later we can also listen to the inputs from Mr. Ghaddaffi. And also towards the net zero carbon emissions 2050 related initiative by the Petronas. All right, I would like to call the second speaker, Mr. Lakshmi Narasimhan. Please welcome Mr. Lakshmi. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very important person for Novozymes, Novonesis, sorry, all right, but Novozymes, we got Novozymes as well, the company. Here is the business director, Planetary Health Biosolutions, and country manager for Novonesis, under Novozymes Malaysia, Sdn Bhd. Definitely, he will share with us later on, focusing more on the bio-based material. And since from Novonesis, we are looking forward to the rules of enzymes as well in this particular perspective. Last but not least, our last speaker is T.S. Soeraya Satem Ahmad. Please welcome Puan. This is also a very important person from Bioeconomy Corporation. She is Senior Vice President, Industry Development Division, Malaysian Bioeconomy Corporation. Ladies and gentlemen, a big applause to our panel today. Okay, so our topic today is the innovation and technology for sustainable bioeconomy. All right, so we have three panels from different backgrounds, one from Petronas, one from very big international company related to the enzymes or bio-based materials, and we have also persons that in charge for the what we call bioeconomy part for Malaysia sites under government initiative. And we talk about innovation and technology for sustainable bioeconomy. So we ignite our forum today with these maybe very general questions, but we might get some inputs from our panels today. Now we have a very established economy for the world, a very quite established economy. But now we are focusing on change for the bioeconomy. But why bioeconomy? But why now? So maybe I would like to get some inputs or insights from the panels. Any of the panels that would like to give the inputs? Why bioeconomy? Why now? Please, who would like to start first? Yes.
Assalamualaikum. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the organizer for inviting me today to represent Bioeconomy and to also share my thoughts and whatever little experience I have. Just to share, I just joined a few months ago. I joined in April, but in the early years of Biotech Corp, I was also with Biotech Corp for a few years under Dato' Iskandar at that time. So I do have experience early on and also now. So why bioeconomy? So bioeconomy, everyone's talking about sustainability, about ESG. So sustainability is the broader concept. So dia macam payung. So bioeconomy is a subset, some sort of a subset of sustainability, where bioeconomy talks about using renewable resources, such as plants, microorganisms, biomass, etc., to produce products, energy, or services. Meanwhile, for sustainability, it has other dimensions to it, and it's more of the responsible use of natural resources. So why bioeconomy? Because it helps us contribute to sustainability, and just how do I say it? It helps us contribute to sustainability and also reduce the use of fossil-based resources.
Yeah, so we are talking about fossil-based resources and alternative for the fossil-based resources. Maybe from the Petronas side, I would like to get some input.
Right. Actually, for bioeconomy for Petronas, I think mainly is this sustainability drive for Petronas, because we do actually adopt we're a very sustainable company. We plan to reduce our carbon emissions, and in doing so, I think we cannot actually keep on producing products that are actually petroleum related. So we need to actually step out from the petroleum area into a bio-based product solutions. And I'm glad to say that Petronas has already deployed several products, bio-based products. So we have the Bioenergy, we have the bioplastics from our chemicals group. When hopefully in the near future, we are also planning to build a biorefinery in the southern part of the peninsula. So that is going to be a huge bio-based product. It's going to be a sustainable SAF plant. Biorefinery. So that's actually one of the Petronas actually effort to step out into the bio-based economy. The main drive is actually sustainability and making sure that we're able to manage our emissions in a way that we don't stop producing novel products in doing so. So in short, that's the work we're doing.
All right. Okay. So the reasons why, because Petronas are looking for the sustainability as well. That's why changing for the bioeconomy, bio-based material for now. So maybe from the Novonesis.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me and also for everyone for taking the time out and listening to us. As Ms. Soeraya mentioned, I will share some of my experiences and hopefully some aspect of it would be relevant and useful for you. So from personally my perspective and also from the company's perspective, I will add. So I've been with the company for close to about 16 years now. I started working in the company in 2008. The reason why I'm making a mention is I used to go and attend forums back then also, and also meet customers and regulatory authorities, and we would talk about sustainability. Back in 2008, nobody was interested, right? For them, sustainability was like, something which is, a luxury, problem for the developed world. So all of our customers and regulators at that point in time would only talk about cost, availability, and affordability, right? Things have not changed. Cost, affordability, and availability is still an important aspect now. I don't think we have come out of it. No country has come out of it, let's be honest. But sustainability has become mainstream. I'm pleased and touched by the fact that you opened this forum with this question on why bioeconomy and why bio. 15 years ago, this would have not been the start of the forum. That's the first thing. So that's my personal take on how that has evolved. And from a company point of view, from a more macro point of view, I think we live in a world where there is a lot of strain on resources, right? We are having challenges in terms of availability of raw material, affordable food. In some countries, availability of water is still an issue, right? So we live in a world where the population is growing steadily. Birth rate may or may not be the biggest issue in most of the countries, but life expectancy has increased, right? So there's more people on Earth and there is less resources available. And in the wake of that, there is increased focus on bioeconomy, renewable, to be able to feed the growing population and to take care of our Mother Earth, right? Because if we don't take care of our Mother Earth, it's going to be a problem. I read an article that Sunday was the hottest day in the history. So I think that's one of the problem. And I'm so glad that there are, countries and companies who have a very concrete action to cut carbon emission. We are a company that is based on bio. We are a 150-year-old company. We have sold nothing but biology in our entire 150 years of existence. I feel that it's great for us to be able to contribute with whatever little we can to companies like Petronas in their attempt to go to net zero, as Dr. mentioned. So that to me is why bio and why now, because of the changing economics and also because of the consciousness of the people around to cut the carbon emissions.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think that we received very good inputs, thought from the panels just now regarding our major topics, which is the bioeconomy. We're talking a lot about bioeconomy now, but why it is now. So we might see the answers, why it is very important for us to go and see the importance of bioeconomy. Now, I would like to ask this question from Pan Soeraya. Now, we already know that bioeconomy is very important. So how the government see this bioeconomy, how the governments view bioeconomy, the importance of bioeconomy, and what are the initiatives or what are the planning and way forwards from the government side for the bioeconomy, especially in Malaysia?
The government definitely recognizes the importance of bioeconomy. And this is not just a year or two. This started almost 20 years ago in 2005, where they established Biotech Corp, Bioeconomy. We were then known as Biotech Corp. So we were established in 2005 as the lead development agency to drive this economy and also to have a more structured implementation on the national biotechnology policy. So the policy was launched in 2005, the first version. So now there is a second version of it. So the first version ended in 2020. So there were 3 phases. The first phase focusing on, capital development, and then commercialization. The next was the last phase was on globalization. So it ended in 2020, and the government saw the need to add to it. So they worked on the NBP 2.0, which ends in 2030. And bioeconomy is working diligently to meet our KPIs, where one of them is to have 3 unicorns in the biotech sector. We just announced one last week. I'm not sure, did anybody attend the National Bioeconomy Showcase last week? Thank you. Terima kasih. So at the event, we announced our first unicorn. So 1 KPI dah, well, almost. So the government is definitely very serious about this. And I think moving forward, there will definitely be, I believe there will be a 3rd version of the national biotechnology policy.
Is there any continuous support from the government, especially for the bioeconomy part?
Continuous support is in industry development.
Mm.
Yes. So we support, facilitate the growth of the industry. So we look at startups, companies, building enterprises on commercialization. So Petronas was asking whether we could assist them. So we definitely can. So we work closely with universities, research institutes, with MNCs, with technology providers. And we also help with market expansion as well, because that's also needed to develop an industry. Because if there's no market demand, then it's also very difficult.
Yeah.
So there is that continuous assistance from us. So from the very first day we were established, we've been giving our full support to the industry.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Puan Soeraya. I think next one, maybe we want to get some inputs as well from the Petronas side. No, we have last time, currently also we rely on the petroleum-based material, right? Especially for energy. Everything today, all the material, most of the material, the paintings, as well as those energy, everything are very rely to the petroleum-based materials as our energy, our major source to do our life every day. Then we have the alternative like lignosulfosic biomass to become the alternative biofuels. And now we also have the microalgae. So maybe Mr. Ghaddaffi experts in microalgae as well as the biofuel. So how you view these kinds of things to become as alternative to the petroleum base? Is it we be able to successfully replace petroleum-based material in the future? Yeah, in your opinion.
Thank you very much for the question. I think it's a very interesting question and very challenging question for us to, to make it realization. Because for information, I've just like 18 months in doing these algae projects, R&D projects, but so much challenges that we see. But fortunately, I've experienced previously in doing some renewable bio-based work previously somewhere in the 2010 when the oil price was 140 that time. So there's always the drive for becoming renewable, going green and bio when actually there is a spike in oil price. You can see every time there's a spike in oil price, everybody will be rushed doing, like alternative solution, biofuel extenders. There's always a rush. And then when the price of oil goes down, everybody back to normalcy, right? Nothing happened. That's what happened in somewhere in 2010 when the price of 140. So everybody were gobbling all the biomass in Malaysia, and we also part of that. And we learned a lot, okay? We learned a lot that time. So when we talk about the bioeconomy, I think one of the things is you see that there's abundance of resources in Malaysia. That's what people say. You have like, millions of tons of bio-based or palm oil resources around the country, around the 400 mills or scattered over the nation, right? But in fact, actually, there's a scarcity because there's a collection centroid, there's a cost to actually recover the biomass, and this is the cost for you to actually dry the biomass so that you're able to do conversion after that. So that's the issue that we found out actually. The collection centroid, the cost to actually recover and process the biomass, and after some time, if the energy that you put in is just much more than what the energy is you are able to produce through your bio oil or through your fermentation process to ethanol, then it defeats the whole purpose. So you need to do it mindfully. That's why I think this area where the government can actually help us, all the players in the bioeconomy, is that to understand this problem so that later we can have a national collection center centroids for the biomass, so that everybody that wants biomass, they don't have to actually recover it themselves. There is central collection centroid, and you can actually have some sort of spot market for biomass, so that people want, they just buy it on the spot, so you don't have to look up for biomass. That's one thing. And second thing that I mentioned to you is the economy of biomass. So we found out actually what is the highest value of biomass that able you to fetch value, because obviously there's a lot of processing costs, and naturally people will think you convert to fuel, but fuel is a very low price, right? Also for when you say that I add up to probably add algae oil to it, so there's a cost to cultivate algae to recover biomass. But in fact, if you're selling it just for fuel, and it's just a commodity, it's a very cheap commodity, If you're selling it for diesel, gasoline, or as the highest, the SAF, Sustainable Aviation Fuel, with a premium, but it's still low, it's still commodity. So the understanding here is that you cannot just sell fuel, but at the flip side of it, you need to have other value chain associated to the biomass that you produce, so that you're able to actually, get higher revenue, get your cash generator beside what you're selling as fuel. So this is a challenge, to establish that whole spectrum economy related to the fuel, biofuel that you're selling. So that's a challenge right now. It's a techno-economic challenge that we need to actually solve when we're doing bio-based solutions or bio-based fuel. So that's my opinion. That's my opinion lah. But at the end of the day, I think when we go into algae, apart from other resources of biomass, the main thing about algae is you're able to tune algae by selecting the right species earlier on, so that if you just want to sell fuel or crude algae oil that converted to SAF, you're able to sell also other bioproducts. That's why I was talking that to our friend here. If we can establish a bio-based market so that we have products, apart from extracting the lipids from algae, you're able to extract the biopharmaceutical components, the food components from this, so that we'll be able to come up with the techno-economic models to make it this at least economics to sell SAF on the market. That's my opinion on this.
All right, thank you. I have extended questions for this one as well regarding this topic, this particular explanation. But I will keep that one first, and we'll ask again later, Mr. Ghaddaffi, regarding that particular part, especially how we are going to commercialize the fuel from the bio-based material. I would like to ask further from Mr. Lakshmi, your inputs. Because Novozymes is an international company. We know it's already established 150 years in this industry related to bio. Various industrial involving the enzymes, various application, processing, product formulations, our foods and so on, involving enzymes. So what is the current trend, especially for the enzymes, and how you see that this enzyme will be very much helpful, especially in the sustainable bioeconomy?
Sure. Thank you so much. I think, Dr. Faizal mentioned that Novonesis, Novozymes. I just want to clarify that. So we merged with another big Danish company in beginning of the year, and hence we are called Novonesis now, right? And when we say biosolutions, enzymes is a very important component of what we do, but that's not the only thing that we do. We have proteins, we have yeast, we have probiotics. So biosolution is majorly around enzymes today, but there is more to it, right? So that's just one very quick clarification. So we operate in a lot of industries. We operate in the technical industries, which is textiles, leather, forest, biofuels. That Mr. Ghaddaffi alluded to. So there are many food and so on and so forth. So there are a few trends that we are seeing very clearly. I think energy security is super important for every country now. So we are seeing a lot of development when it comes to the biodiesel space, the biogas, the biofuels. Biofuels is ethanol, by the way, for the ones who are not fully aware of the definition. So these are the three areas that are seeing a lot of innovation, and the trend is in that direction. So those are the three main areas that we see. Maybe just a side note, as Mr. Ghaddaffi mentioned, that it's not just the ethanols, that you can get out of the biomass. That's just one of the products. But you can use any biomass to convert to fermentable sugar. And once you have converted to fermentable sugar, you can get ethanol, you can get butanol, you can get bioplastics, and so on and so forth. So there's this wide spectrum of products that are produced. And Mr. Ghaddaffi was spot on that, ethanol is probably the lowest value, highest volume. And then there are some, other niche products which are very high value, but the volumes are low. So there's a lot of, innovation in that space and trend in that direction. So that's one. The second thing that we are seeing is in the food waste space. right? So, everyone is focusing on trying to cut down the food waste, right? And this is also where biosolutions play a very important role. So I will not bore you all with statistics, but just one, reflection, right? So a lot of people throw away their bread if it becomes hard. We don't wait for molds to come, but the fact that it becomes hard is good enough for us to discard the bread and buy a new loaf of bread and eat, right? So there are a lot of biosolutions that helps to keep the bread fresh. And by doing so, we estimate that we will be able to, save around 30 to 30% of the food waste in the bread space itself, right? Yogurt, the same. There are technologies that can help increase the shelf life. So that's the second thing where a lot of companies are doing a lot of research. And that's the trend that we are seeing. The third one, and I think I'll probably stop after this because I can go on, to be honest, right? The third one is in the bioagriculture space. Once you produce the food, you then try everything to make sure that you don't discard it, you don't waste it, right? But what about continuous supply, increased supply? So this is also where we are seeing a lot of innovations being done, right? Many parts of the world are over fertilized, right? And because of which the inherent ability of the soil is diminishing. So there is a lot of innovation in trying to retain the nutritional or the fertility of the soil, right? In layman term. But that's not the only thing. There is also focus on biocontrol, trying to increase both yield at the crop level, but also trying to mitigate diseases that impacts productivity, right? And that is not just the companies, governments are also focusing, right? I mean, happy farmers, happy population, as they say, right? And how do you lift the economy of a country, right? You go to the farmers, you make sure that the average income of the ones who are working very hard in the field, you raise their income, and that's a very compounding effect. So these are the three mega trends that we are seeing in the world right now. Thank you.
Yeah. So now we can see that what we call the bio-based material is kinds of major importance in several sectors. Now we are talking about the energy sectors, then food sectors, agricultural sectors. Maybe I would like to ask Puan Soeraya, now in Malaysia, especially under Bioeconomy Corporation, is it Bioeconomy Corporation focus on specific sectors that you are looking for, or is it looking to all kinds of sectors related to bioeconomy? Yeah.
I forgot to mention earlier, actually. So the bioeconomy in Malaysia, we focus on 3 sectors. So it cuts across three main sectors: agriculture, healthcare, and industrial biotechnology. So, and I just want to add, innovation is definitely something that everyone is looking into, because to get something cost effective and macam Petronas was saying tadi kan, and for the 3 sectors, from our perspective, we see a lot of companies coming up with all sorts of solutions. And now people are talking about the biorevolution. So this is the convergence of Industry 4.0 and bioeconomy. So this is also an interesting landscape where you see even Malaysian companies. We see companies like in the food sector using 3D printing of bird's nest to get a standardized size and shape, and also to reduce the waste of their bird's nest. So this is interesting to see, because entrepreneurs are also being very innovative and adopting other technologies, not just biology, engineering, also IT, AI, and no, we don't just focus on one sector, on the 3 main sectors. Of course, it has the subsectors. So bioenergy is also in it, bioplastics, bioremediation, healthcare, so omics, botanical drugs also falls under our purview.
Yeah, those are have very big potential, right? Especially to drive the demands and create the sustainable bioeconomy, especially in Malaysia. Then we back again to Mr. Ghaddaffi regarding the techno-economic viability that you mentioned just now, right? We will talk about the techno-economic viability. Definitely when we do research, we do small scale, so we might not be see the potential or the possibility in terms of the economic values for that side. We want to have, then we need to create larger scales and so on, then we can see the economic viability. More larger scale, then more economic values in terms of that. So how do you see this one, especially for the biofuel or bio-based material that could be produced in Malaysia?
Scaling up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Lakshmi was saying that happy farmers, happy population, happy country, right? I would always remember it comes to me as a nation, Holland. They managed to scale up the whole country as like a big bioeconomy. The whole country is a big bioeconomy, huge. They're exporting foods, everything. But it's a small country, and most of it is underwater, and they have dikes actually to manage all the water treatment system, and they recycle the water at every molecule. They look at it up to that detail. So as a nation, I think we can actually try to understand how Holland made it in the form of scaling up. But in specific, when you ask the scaling up for biomass, I think you need to actually understand the major process when you actually doing the bioprocess work. I'm not a bioprocess engineer per se, but I come from a process background. So I think the first thing actually, when you look at biomass, you need to understand there's a significant difference between our biomass and what you find in the Northern American way. So last time when we had some projects together with some American National Laboratory, they were coming down and, oh, there's so much biomass around Malaysia. They were excited, but after a few weeks, they said, there's a fundamental difference in what your biomass here in Malaysia and what you have in the Northern America, because the biomass there is wood-based, wood chip-based, and ours is more like fibrous. So when they bring down the equipment here, everything, it doesn't work. It's as simple as you want to grind an EFB, where our EFB has high content of silica. So their equipment just failed in that ground. So understanding the engineering requirement is the first thing. How you want to actually process your biomass, because your biomass in Malaysia is unique. You don't know, it's not the same as other parts of the world. So you need to understand engineering requirement is something that you need to look into when you processing biomass, and energy utilization. Because my experience in actually doing crude algae extraction, right? Algae is not the same sort of biomass when you compare to palm oil, jatopa, or pongamia. That's because it's the oil actually resides intracellular cell. So you cannot press your algae and get oil out. That's what we learned the hard way a few months, that no oil coming out. Actually, you need to break down the cell wall. So it's a different engineering process. It's not normal. Your pressing machine in the oil mill were able to do that. So that's engineering constraint. So we understood that to break the cell wall, there's a lot of energy. You need heat. You need pressure. So how you would engineer such in terms so that you're able to reduce all the energy requirements, so that you don't put more energy than what energy is produced from your bio oil. So that's another thing, energy. And that thing is that you need to actually understand how you want to extract the product so that you don't lose the value of the product. Lakshmi said, there's a whole bioeconomy of product there. Not only lipids, but there are other sections of the products, like say you want to extract DHA, EPA, you want to extract other things. But is it that you extract lipid first, then you extract DHA? Would you extract that and you spoil the molecules of the other components? So there's a lot of things going on there. So when you want to scale out a process, I think engineering is basic, fundamental, back to science. Understand what your biomass is, understanding that, so that you design your equipment surrounding that biomass that you're working. So that's a challenge for you to upscale. And to do that, I think you need actually industrial support. You need machinery equipment. And I think sometime last time when I tried to do that EFB project, I went down to Johor, up to the palm oil mill, to see some of the local palm mills. They made their own equipment to process EFB. So the Americans were going down saying, wow, this is innovation at its core. So actually there's innovation everywhere. And it's important for us to scout these ideas and see how people actually solve their problem, day-to-day problem, by simple innovation. So that's what we experienced previously. And right now, I think we also experience the same thing. And we are also trying to incorporate simple ideas to make sure that we're able to come up with the extraction process, especially for this crude algae oil work, in a manner that is sustainable. So energy is bare minimum when you actually want to produce crude algae oil, and you want to do it efficiently without destroying the other values of the components of the molecules that are able to sell at far more higher value than the fuel itself. So that's what we are actually experiencing at the moment. The challenge of scaling up the bioprocessing process.
The bioprocessing part. Yeah, I think we receive very good input as well, especially from the academician side. So how to see or how to what we call do the research. What are the things that we should solve in the future when we conduct the research, especially from converting materials to valuable products. So there are part of the steps that we should think the problems is there that we need to solve. Right. Maybe we would like to get inputs from the Mr. Lakshmi that have the company that have very much experience in terms of the processing part. So what are the secrets or what are the innovations? Because when we want to produce the enzymes, for example, so it starts from the selecting the correct species, or if you have the species, then we need to improve it. Then after we improve it, we need to characterize the enzymes, the structures, and so on until the products can be sold at the large scale process. So that will require a very tedious investigation part in that particular things, right? So how Novozymes are doing that one?
How are we innovating?
Yeah.
That's the question, right? It helps to be an old company, to be honest, because then you have revenue that you can channelize back into the R&D. So I think there are a few things that we do when it comes to innovation. The first thing that we do is we invest close to about 10 to 11% of our top line into R&D, right? So that's the first important thing that I would want to mention, that any company who's serious in innovation, you will have to allocate a significant chunk of your revenue back into R&D because you need to build scale, right? If you don't build the scale, it's very difficult to achieve anything. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we do is, when you talk about innovation, the thing with innovation is, so if you look at any fast-moving consumer good, right? The easiest way of increasing revenue is you drop the price, you put it on sale, you run an ad campaign, you get revenue quickly. Innovation takes time. You need to invest a lot of money and time. And over a period of time is when you start seeing the results, right? So there is this gestation period that you have between when you start working on a certain idea and by the time you are able to see, the light at the end of the tunnel and revenue coming in, right? So what we do in that space is we are very, very careful in choosing what we work on, right? And how do you do that? You do that by listening to what the market says. You listen to, customers, understand what their priorities are. A collaborative project usually works very well because then you have a partner to help you with areas that you're not good at, right? So that's the second thing that we do. We work with our partners, right? We do that. And then the third thing, which I think is super important and relevant, is we thrive on an ecosystem, right? So partner is one important aspect, but that's not the be it all for us, right? We need academic inputs. We need companies that are working in a similar space. We need, research institute and the government to help us, right? So we work in an ecosystem to increase our chance of succeeding. So that's the third thing. And maybe if I may dare add the fourth thing is that, people who are working in the research, I don't know how many R&D or research colleagues are here or folks are here. But essentially what happens is that when you start working on an idea, very soon that idea becomes your baby, right? So then, the success of of your project and the idea is a reflection of your caliber and your success. So, if that idea sees light at the end of the tunnel, you believe that you are successful. Other way around, you believe that you are unsuccessful. So I think that segregation needs to be there because some ideas are great ideas and some are not. Some are scalable, some are not. Some are ahead of time and some are not. Right. So the individual component plays a role. Anyone who's researching, that's why you have Nobel Prize scientists, right? And you have some who are not. But that is not the only thing, right? There are other aspects also. So understanding as to how long do we want to continue, and there's a fine balance. You give up early, you will actually give up everything, right? Because in research, you will have a lot of problems. But if you don't give up, if you continue to work, then you will probably retire with one idea, trying to scale it up, right? So trying to find that balance as to when to kill the idea is critical. So those are the 4 elements that we work on. Take a lot of help. We have consultants helping us. Commercial guys like me help challenge. So that's the ecosystem that we have created. We are no stretch of imagination a perfect company. With all the innovation muscle that we have, our innovation success rate is roughly 30-35%. So out of the 100 projects that we work on, we kill 65 projects, but we learn and then work on the other projects. It's only 35 that succeeds. Thank you.
Yeah, there is. I think that's very important inputs as well for us to capture and bring forward when we want to do the research in the future, from the ideation until how we should focus for that particular part, so that it could be possible to be improved on in the future. Another one thing is maybe we talk a little bit, relate a little bit this forum with the symposium objective, which is related to the synthetic biology and also CRISPR technology. And I think when we talk about the biological process involving the microorganisms of the organisms, so in order to enhance them, maybe we require some molecular modifications to it, right? So maybe Novozymes are very experienced in terms of that one. So how about the Petronas punya sites lah? Change over to Petronas punya site. So you are looking more on the processing part, but still the organism sites are very important. Without modifying, without improving, without doing anything to that microorganism, we might not be able to produce sufficient amounts of the products that we want. So how do you think on that part?
For a person with mechanical and engineering background like me, it's not easy for me to answer that question. All right, but I try to answer that from whatever 18-month experience I have. But when you talk about bio-based solution, it's always a new thing in Petronas. It's a step out initiative from Petronas to increase our revenue and try to cap whatever emission we have. So in doing so, we understood that biology is the next thing that we should actually go into, because it's just abundance of biomass. And because of the products that usually in terms of its carbon emission is labeled green, because we have coming from the biological pathway. So I think it's something that we thought that we want to expand our products into that. But your question is that how actually are the naturally available like species or biological species out there are good enough or economic enough for us to actually cultivate, scale up, and do whatever we need to do with them, ferment them or what. So the idea is that to answer your question, not always. Okay. All right. So I think we learned a lot these 18 months. Our first experience when we try to scale up our algae cultivation is that we understood that there's actually millions of algae in fact in the world. So where do we start? Where do we start? So actually, that's a very fundamental thing that actually we didn't actually realize that. We partnered a local cultivation company. We start from there, and from there we understood that when we cultivate that algae, we found out there's so much problem coming to it. One of the things is that there's not enough oil coming out from it. You expect that some people were doing economics calculation that you need 70% of the biomass weight to become lipids to make that economics. Some said that you need to grow that 18 kg of that biomass per time to make economics. So there's a lot of numbers that we've been playing. But to answer your question, yes, if we're able to actually mutate these bioorganisms the way that probably a natural mutation, a gene modification, but through natural processes, right? If we're able to increase some of its outputs, let's say lipids, from whatever you have 10% to 30%, that would increase your economic viability by 300%, right? Simple economics. So short answer is yes. I think the evolution of some of the new technology that is a tools, the enabler that able right now that was not available like 10, 15 years ago, I think is something like crucial to make sure that bio-based economy or bio-based solution can actually stand out in the long term and able to stay on economically viable. So I think when you talk about, I think we did some project with Symbiosis, we try to understand how we can actually alter the metabolic pathway and change the bit of how the DNA work inside there. I'm not expert in it, but every day I'm learning. But I know there are switches that you can turn on and off into algae. That's a simple thing. If you're able to turn off some people were talking about a Kelvin cycle, right? A cycle where you generate either lipid or glucose. So if you're able to actually control that in a manner that you're able to increase the lipid production by 3 times, so you actually increase the economics of the whole process easily by 300% by not doing any engineering improvement, just by genetic modification. So to answer your question, definitely yes, we like the technology about gene modification, CRISPR, and things like that. But I think there is also an issue of whether we're able to cultivate in a large scale in the out in the external environment. Is there an issue on whether we're actually releasing the mutated organism into the natural ecosystem? There is also a big issue that we are facing it. So right now, I think we tried to actually adopt that, but very cautiously, because we don't want to actually spoil the natural environments around us. But to answer your question, yes, but we need to do it in a manner that very responsibly. That's my short answer to that.
All right. So we need that, right? But we must do ethically in order to modify the organisms and so on. So maybe a little bit from Mr. Lakshmi regarding that one. If you especially for the pros and cons, using the modified organisms for the productions of bio-based materials.
Realized that I've been using your mic all this while. Sorry. No, I think you said it rightly, right? I think we need to do it super ethically. For us, the bulk of the modification that we do is to increase the yield of the output of the enzymes, right? So, and that is important because that doesn't change the functionality per se, correct? And it's very different, right? It's very different to having a genetically modified apple, for example, because there you're tweaking the composition of the tree and the plant itself. Whereas when you're producing enzymes, you're tweaking the microorganism. And as Mr. Ghaddaffi, mentioned, it is to increase the yield of a certain component. So in our term, what we do is we use all of the technologies that you mentioned to increase the yield of the expressed proteins, which is nothing but enzymes, correct? And that is super important because that helps to lower down the cost, right? If it was not for, some of the technologies that we used, and the technologies that we use is not just that, but also AI, a lot of different technologies. There are also some, non-fashionable, technologies which are old, which is maintaining your fermentation health. Outdated, but super important, right? Because if you have contamination, your yields will go down. But essentially, everything centered around to increase the yield. And then there are certain cases where we tweak the functionality of it, but then we go through all the authorities and regulatory bodies to seek clearance for us to be able to introduce that product to the market. And some examples are, right, you have processes that are run at 80 degrees, right? Starch is a great example where you have the, the temperatures which are higher, usually 80 degrees, 85 degrees. Back in the days, the enzyme used to be working at 50 degrees. So you have to cool and then heat again, right? And cooling causes gelatinization and a lot of other problems. And again, I'm going to take the quote from Mr. Ghaddaffi, right, where he mentioned, don't put more energy than what you get out, right? So if you're able to, create a system where you're energy efficient, it helps. So that's one example where we tweak the functionality, but by and large, most of our intervention is either old school or to increase the yield of the products, which is super important because reducing the cost is not just good or a luxury, right? It's a necessity now. Correct. So that would be my take. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Lakshmi, for that particular inputs. I think I have last question maybe for this forum before we open up to audience to ask the question to all the panelists. From Puan Soeraya. Now we're talking about the what we call government initiative for especially for the bioeconomy. We have a lot, so maybe we would like to share some things that everyone, especially in the audience, can see and can look for what kinds of initiative that we can tap in so that we can move or do better, especially for the research and improving and contributing for the bioeconomy. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, for companies, we have the Bionexus status, which comes with an incentive, a tax incentive. And so if you are a biotech company and you're eligible to apply, we will assist you in getting this status because it's awarded to companies that comply to the criteria. And on top of the Bionexus status, we also have the Bio-Based Accelerator Program. So it's called the BBA. So this BBA program is for companies and also cooperatives pun boleh. So they can participate. So as long as they are producing bio-based products or services, they can participate in our program. And here we're able to provide the assistances and support that we can help them grow. And I just wanted to touch on innovation just now, on commercialization. Like Mr. Lakshmi was saying, Daddy, sometimes you need to use old technology. So they say, read an old book for new ideas. So someone said that to me actually, because I was looking for ideas and said, and then it hit me. So I think to be innovative, you have to be creative and not just look at new or trendy technologies to work on, but you can combine and be creative to see what works. And commercialization is something I'm very familiar with because previously I was with MTDC. So, and at MTDC, I worked on a lot of projects where I assisted researchers commercializing their research. So there are many stages in commercialization. So there's TRL1 all the way to TRL9. So, but usually researchers akan sangkut dekat TRL4 and they don't know what to do next. Okay, so you have to be creative and you have to get market feedback. You cannot do research yang short sendiri. Okay, you have to do market-driven research. So the examples here by Novozymes and Petronas, you can see when they do research, it has to be economical. They have already all that in mind. So I think researchers should also adopt that mindset. So okay, on top of that, so other assistances we provide. If you need assistance on commercialization, you can come to us. We can see how we can work together because we want to see research that all of you come up with in the market. We don't want to see it on the shelf because the government has already spent a lot of money, invested a lot of money in all that research that you've done. So we want to see it commercialized. Okay, and okay, so that's the Bionexus, the BBA program. And we also have our Biokerjaya. So these are for students, for graduates, for those, it's a career portal and program. So we also have internship placement programs. And also, if you've heard, we have the BNP lab. So that's the Bionexus partner labs. So UKM is one of the universities that is under our BNP program. BNP, it's how we connect the academia and the industry. So we have all these different programs to assist all the different stakeholders in the industry.
So for BNP, meaning that university can register to become the BNPs, and then
A lab has to register.
the lab has to
Yes,
register.
yes.
The
I
lab
think
has to
for
apply
Ibrahim
for that one. Yeah.
Yes, correct.
And then being connected with the industry if they want to do some lab testing and so on.
Yes.
Yeah, regarding the Bioeconomy, must be the startup company, new venture company, or already established company can apply the Bioeconomy status as well.
Both are
Both are
eligible to apply.
eligible to apply.
Yes,
I
but
see.
maybe the tax incentives would be different.
I see.
Mm.
All right. All right. So we have also participants from the company. Maybe they're looking for that kinds of initiative as well for the future. I think we have talked a lot and discussed a lot regarding this one, especially for sustainable bioeconomy. We touched from the larger perspective towards to the technologies wise, very details and so on. And I think there are very good inputs from all the panelists. Now I would like to welcome all the audience. If you have questions, yes, please. All right, you can shout. All right, okay. We can hear you. We can hear you.
This is not like a question, but maybe more of an opinion. But I am a nobody here. So I think Malaysia, my name is Fikri. Yes, I think Malaysia and especially Petronas is stepping in the right direction, venturing into bioenergy, because I think that Malaysia is still lagging behind other countries like Brazil and also the European Union. And if we don't start now, then we will never be able to produce bioenergy at a cheaper price, because if we were to compare with other industries like vaccine and also insulin production, like initially the cost was very high, but in the end we managed to reduce the cost up to until just like a single digit cost of production per vial. But maybe instead of focusing on producing like already cheap things in the market, because if you talk about bioenergy or biofuel, so these are the cheap things in the market. So maybe we can actually start with producing, as what Mr. Ghaddaffi mentioned just now, these value-added chemicals. So once we have actually established the pipeline for producing these value-added chemicals, then only we can apply this pipeline to produce the cheaper things. So instead of putting all of our resources in producing cheap things, and then we get disappointed because our yield or our production is not the same as the chemical production route. So maybe we can take the direction of producing these value-added chemicals first. And once we have established all the pipelines, so we can understand the strain better, the bioprocessing side better, then we can actually use that same pipeline to actually produce these cheap things at a very cheap cost. So maybe this is just like my opinion.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Fikri, from your opinion. So maybe we get feedback from Ghaddaffi. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Fikri, for the I think strategic question. But for Petronas, it's always business continuity in this kind of changing landscape, where you have actually a transition from whatever oil economy to a gas and to a fully renewable. So there is actually a change in the energy slate. Okay, so for Petronas, gas is the transition energy doing that, and in doing so, actually, we're doing a lot of renewables. We're doing a lot of actually PV, wind, and also looking at bio-based solution. One of it is the sustainable aviation fuel. Okay, to answer your question, the first thing why we actually you say is not such a ultra high price, right, when you're selling at fuel, but it's always for us a business continuity for Petronas. So we need to continue our business selling fuels, lubricants, and commodities, cheap commodities, but in a manner that's sustainable. That's why we actually putting this agenda of a bio-based solution. But in doing so, we understood that actually there are actually more valuable products that come along with it. So that's why you would say that we should also be selling this ultra high value product. Maybe in the future we'll be, like partners with Novozymes and Mr. Lakshmi here to sell the higher products from our bio-based solutions. Then the opportunity is always there, but it's always that business continuity for Petronas during this transition energy period for us to actually involve in bio-based solutions. That's my answer. That's actually what we are thinking, the mindset of us at the moment. Thank you.
So maybe from Mr. Lakshmi, if you'd like to give any feedbacks for this.
No, I think I can only agree to what is being said. It makes a lot of sense. You need to start investing in products. And, if you look at most of the new products that are introduced, initially the cost will be high. But over a period of time, when you get the scale, you get experience, you are able to do innovation, the cost will come down. Business continuity is also a super important point, right? There is a difference between running a business and a research, right? When you're running a business, you need to take care of your employees, your stakeholders. There are many mouths to be fed. So I think it's a fine balance. The companies are run by investors, right? Let's be completely honest about it. So I think it's a fine balance. But I feel that the industry is going in a super right direction. And I can only agree to what is being said. Very wise comments.
All right. Any other questions from the audience?
Hi, I'm Haslam. I like. Should I just?
If you can, no problem.
See.
Oh, we have the FB Live, so maybe you can use my file for that.
Hi. I'll try to be not echo as possible. I'm Haslam. I'd like to ask Puan Soeraya. So first of all, I'm very grateful and would like to thank you and also your team at Bioeconomy Federation, lifting up the bioeconomy in Malaysia. I would like to ask about the biotech startups in Malaysia, and I realized many, including the Bionexus startups, is currently, for now, focusing more on genetic testing, agriculture, and also some health products. But many of them is focusing on natural biology. So my question is, how's the support for startups targeting high hanging fruits like the GMOs? Of course, not releasing the GMOs, but perhaps the derived products from the GMOs, high value products like the fragrances or maybe biotextiles for premium fashion. So we know unlike the natural biology, which we can always use the garage or the backyard cabin to first create the MVP, the minimal viable product. But that's not the case for GMOs or the GM derived products, right? So my question is, so is university is the only road for this? And you mentioned about the BNP labs, then could you please elaborate more on it in terms of how's the cost is covered, perhaps the renting, and how's the facility as compared to one of the facility I visited at Imperial College. So they got a very startup incubator for translational research in biotech. So they got the integrated biofoundry and all, and also every founders, academic founders as well in there. So how's the comparison for now and the status for BNP and also other good ecosystem for startups for GMO specifically? Thank you.
Okay. I can't really touch on GMO due to the regulations and all. But on startups, because you mentioned biotextiles, right? We do have a startup that is producing bioleather. And they have already been approached by luxury brands in Europe, and we are supporting and assisting them. But when you mention on BNP, I think you've got the idea wrong about the BNP Labs. So BNP Labs is about us connecting labs in universities or research institutes with the industry. So labs that provide all sorts of technical, analytical services, or perhaps if you can do product development, product refinement for companies. So we connect these two dots, but we do not have an incubator like you mentioned. But we, it might be an idea, I think, that we can work together with other incubators, perhaps one that can focus specifically on bioeconomy and biotechnology startups, because startups definitely need assistance, in terms of space, support, because I was a startup once. I had a company for 8 years, and I was producing extracts using supercritical fluid. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, so that is my specialty. And I was struggling, looking. The initial stage was I had to look for a space. So I do agree. I think that's a good idea. Thank you very much for that idea. I think it's something we can look into, because like I mentioned just now, I was previously working with MTDC, and MTDC has incubator centers, 5 incubator centers throughout Malaysia. Perhaps an idea for us to work with MTDC. All right, thank you.
Any further
Okay.
questions?
Thank you. So these questions, I have 3 questions, are not directed to specific, so any of the panel can answer. So the first question is, how long do you think that this green or alternative energy will be in the forefront? I don't know. This is my question. The second question is, what about the existing problem? When we talk about sustainability, we're talking about environmental issue. So I don't know whether this has been covered. We know Petronas and other oil and gas provider, they have these issues on mercury and also radioactive, especially when we are doing in Southeast Asia region. So has this been really handled? Because mercury is colorless, you don't know the vapor, or you are actually intake, everyday intake from probably the cosmetic, but probably from the environment. The other one is CO2. So what about the status of CO2 capture? If the current issue that should be handled, other than talking about sustainability that we are currently talking, that will take probably a few years. And the third one, because I'm an academician, and I believe that in university, there's a long story, there's a long history of research being done in this alternative energy. So is there any integrated effort to these low-hanging fruits? I would say that, because we have done like 30 years, 20 years of research. And is there any integrated effort to catch this? So that will be 1, 2, 3 yes questions. All right, thank you.
I would like just to pass to answer this question, but since it's mentioned directly Petronas, so I guess I have to answer the question. But I think to answer your question, it's a fair question about the environmental impact of our CO2 emissions. Yes, Petronas and with our friend in the energy generator company, both of us actually is the 2 largest CO2 polluters in Malaysia. By that fact, I think everybody knows that. But because of the sheer size of our operation, it's not because we were being careless or whatsoever. So for Petronas, I think based on 2019 baseline CO2 emission, we were at something like 49.5 million ton per annum of CO2 equivalent emission. That's high. So you have like 40 million ton of CO2 every year emitted from your operation. That was the baseline in 2019. But the good thing is that for Petronas, we are embracing the net zero carbon emission effort. So the whole company is actually aggressively doing carbon mitigation. We develop a lot of technology in the realm of the space of carbon capture, CCUS. We spend over millions, if not billions of dollars, just to say, to actually come up with CCUS solutions. So at the moment, the plan is to quickly reduce the 49.5 million ton per annum to somewhere half of that in the span of 2025 to 2030. By doing that, so we reduce that half of that emissions. So we are planning to actually develop a huge carbon capture and storage site in the Malay Basin. I think it's always in the news, and the government also doing a lot of talking on that to come up with a policy and everything. So that carbon storage hub will be the first in the region, I think, for this Southeast Asia, so that people with CO2 emission will able to channel their emission and store their CO2 in our depleted reservoir. So that's huge work by Petronas, and we come up with already with the storage atlas for the Malay Basin. So we know actually where are the sort of reservoir that we're able to actually inject CO2. So that's the Petronas effort right now to quickly reduce our emission to half. And beyond that, there are electrification, continuous electrification. You will see that most of our operation is mainly not powered by coal and no coal anymore. It's now gas, but slowly we are migrating to electrification, electric motors, things like that. We are also looking at coming up with somewhat around 30 gigawatt of renewable energy in the form of PV and also wind by 2030. And beyond that, we are looking at bio-based solution is one of the solution. So in doing that, hopefully by 2050, Petronas has a sort of a net zero carbon emission. We still producing emission, but at the same time, we are also planting trees. We also do a lot of other effort to make sure that it's neutral, zero neutral. It's not that we don't emit, but it's a zero carbon neutral. So it's a net zero carbon emission by 2050. That's Petronas planning. I think there was also a question by you on Prof by the mercury, right? I'm not the best person to answer, but actually we also do mercury treatment. Our plant is always equipped with mercury removal system. And right now there is actually a regulation for the produced water to be directly injected into the wells and not be actually passed back to the sea. So mercury treatment is always there in Petronas. We have standards to manage our mercury, and by doing so, I guess we're quite advanced in terms of the mercury management, because the nature of our field that have mercury composition, part of that. So we have mercury management steps and procedures to manage our mercury. So the answer on that mercury. And then the last question was the greater effort to initiative. Okay, I guess for the past 3 to 4 years, it started during the COVID era, 2021. We formed up academic alliance with a lot of universities around Malaysia. So we have actually channeled a lot of funds, and some of the universities have already been receiving funds, and some of it still in the signing, but a lot of money and is in the trial of 100 millions. I think UKM also received some of it. So hopefully by doing this, we already tapping the expertise for university, because we are actually an outfit of R&D, only like some 300 to 500 strong researchers. You can see some of them here. But beyond that, we are not able to actually employ more because of the nature of our operation. We are still an operation company. It's not R&D based, but an operation company. But by tapping the expertise for universities, especially all the, Apex University in Malaysia, UKM, one of that, right? So we're able to tap the expertise and the right solution, so that we're able to incorporate that quickly into our day-to-day operation. So that's the effort we have. But in the future, we expect more collaborative effort with university, so that we're able to actually directly, tap the innovation for university and get it fast forwarded, commercialized in our production. One of it is our bio-based, and with our work with Biosys, we hope to actually come up with a lot of, innovation and a lot of increased production from our bio-based solutions. Thank you very much. I hope I answered your question.
I just want to add. Okay, this is the reason why the government is giving this big push into bioeconomy. because bioeconomy is a circular economy. It's unlike the traditional model where it's a linear economy. So you take, make, dispose. Okay, that is what we have been practicing all this while. Okay, but with the bioeconomy, it's different. It's a circular economy. So it goes. So we macam waste. We try to see how we can process balik the waste to produce other products or services, to produce energy. So it goes back into the ecosystem. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is to minimize waste and the impact on the environment. So that is why I think the government's really pushing for bioeconomy.
Maybe I'll touch on a couple of questions that you asked. The first question is the green fuels. How long is it going to stay? From our lenses, I think it's just a beginning. Which form of the green fuel will win, whether it is solar or wind or bioethanol, that's yet to be seen. But I don't think it's a flash in the pan. I think it's going to be a formidable force, and it will form a big portion of our energy requirement going forward, right? By 2030, by 2050, and so on and so forth. So that's the first part. Again, this is our take. This is what we are seeing from the market. And this is where we are investing also heavily, because we believe that this is going to stay, right? The second question that you asked on the sustainability and, what about, I mean, the mercury part, I'll leave it, I think it's not for me to answer, but the CO2 part. So in our lenses, sustainability is not just the environmental sustainability. Environmental sustainability is super important, but that's not the only thing that we focus on. We focus on economic sustainability also, right? So sustainability in our mind should not come at a cost. You should, at times you might have to pay a slight premium to begin with. And that, points to the fact that, when you start something, the cost is a bit higher, but over a period of time, it should come at equal cost or lower cost. And that's where we are investing a lot of time and effort. Specifically on the CO2, we help our customers to capture the reduce the CO2. I mean, we have a solution that is also to capture the CO2, but that's very small and nascent. But the big chunk of what we do is we help our customers reduce the carbon footprint, right? And that is by increasing yield. That is by securing that the indirect land use change is reduced. That is also by increasing but by reducing the energy requirement for a process, right? So if you're able to reduce the energy from 200 degrees to 50 degrees, there is a huge carbon footprint saving. So what we do is we work with our partners to secure that their carbon footprint is reduced. And that reduction happens at a neutral cost or a lower cost, because that's important and alludes to the business continuity that Mr. Ghaddaffi alluded to. And we also have a battery of LCA experts, right? It's, in today's age and stage, it is not enough to capture the CO2, right? You need to document it. So what we do is we help our partners to calculate how much is the CO2 capture. And some of these are also done through peer review, right? So these are well documented, time tested, so that, you can communicate to the customers, in forums like this, when you ask, if it's a peer reviewed LCA, then you can exactly say how much is the CO2 reduction. And also, in annual reports these days, I don't know, if you read annual reports or not, that's a centerpiece, right? So that's where we focus our efforts. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much to panel as well as to the audiences who asked the question just now. I think time is already up. So, it's already completed for our forum today. So I would like to thanks again to all the panelists for sharing all the inputs. I think that's very valuable inputs as well, including for myself, because I'm teaching dynamics in bioeconomy for master students. It's very helpful for me as well to use the points for my teaching purposes as well. Not only that, for our research directions and so on for the future, how we could help or how we could direct our research so that it will be very valuable, as well as integrate with the requirement from the industry sides, the market demands and so on that we listen from today's forum. I hope that whatever inputs that we deliver or we share today will be very useful as well to all the audience today. And if there is any shortcomings from us, anything drawbacks, not enough, our weaknesses and so on, so please apologize. I think that's all from our side. I pass back to the organizer to in charge for this one. Thank you.